Great, thanks for having me. We're going to go back in time to the 90s. I've had a 10-year professional skateboard career at a time and had this urge to start my own company. And of course, I figured it makes sense to start a skateboard company because I knew a little thing about that. But I also knew that to be successful, I really wanted to make sure I partnered with someone that was very high profile. And at the time, I approached Tony Hawk and we started Birdhouse Skateboards. And of course, as a skateboard company, you make skateboards. But to build demand, we figured, let's do something really new and interesting. What you see here on the screen are two scenes from one of our skateboard films. So to the left, you'll say, what does fire have to do with skateboarding? Well, probably not a whole lot, but it certainly creates a moment that you're going to remember if you saw the film. And to the right, you'll see Tony Hawk himself, at the time, the first skater to do the full loop on a ramp, which is pretty remarkable at the time. So we learned that making cool videos and films like this really helped us build demand. But the most important part was we got some good help. Well, first of all, back then, print advertising was still very prominent to build a brand. But very early on in the 90s, some of you may remember, the electronics companies decided to come out with a new technology. They were called VCRs. So with that, and then later DVD players, our content fit exceptionally well for both those innovations. And most importantly, if you see to the very far right, is a picture of a PlayStation. Sony came out with a PlayStation in the late 90s, and we were at the right place at the right time. And Activision came out with Tony Hawk Pro Skater. And that game propelled not just Birdhouse skateboards, certainly Tony Hawk, but skateboarding to just about every corner of the world. And in essence, changed skateboarding from a toy to a lifestyle. So 25 years later, I've learned a lot from building action sports global brands. And the best way to sum it up is we built brands through storytelling, something that connects with your heart, something you're going to remember. And now I have shifted my attention from an operator and entrepreneur into the world of an investor. And of course, being an investor, you're passive, you don't have as much control. So what I had to do, I really figured I would have to create a framework from what I learned to best have a chance of investing wisely. And that framework is actually really simple. It's 3 pillars: the idea, the leadership, and movements. And I'll make a perfect example here in a company we have invested in that we believe check all those boxes. So if we start with the idea itself, the idea came to us and it's a premium electric motorcycle company. So from the outside looking in, oh, that seems to make sense. People are talking about zero emission. But more importantly, from an investor perspective, who is the company, people behind the company? And in this case, this is a picture of Stefan. He had already had a success. He had built and sold a helmet company. So we knew there was something there. But the combination of the leadership and the idea is what really got us excited. He didn't just want to make electric motorcycles. He wanted to be part of a movement to contribute towards a zero emission society. So the purpose-driven idea is what really got us excited. But when you look at a new company, whether it's Cake or someone else that we are looking at investing in, the most difficult part to assess is how hard or how easy is it going to be for this company to create movements. And what I mean by movements is anything from internally making people want to be part of this company, move this idea forward with the product or services or whatever it is, or a combination thereof. But it could also be movements around journalists that want to write about this innovation and this idea or the company in general. And we believe at this point, although they're 2 years in, that they are pulling this off fantastically. To the left, you see a picture of a motorcycle, a guy jumping in the air. It's not that sensational, but if I tell you the backstory, it will be. They built a track downtown, a small town in France called Saint-Tropez, very famous city. And you can imagine being there, no sound other than music, no smell, no pollution. Whether you were a bystander, you saw this, or whether you were one of the first to be part of this invitational first of cakes competition, you will most likely remember that for a very, very long time. And the picture to the right, yes, the motorcycle is in the foreground, but what the picture really tells you, here's a guy, a fishing enthusiast, who probably is able to get up the river a little further, a little easier than he could before. And he certainly can get places where cars are not allowed. Again, he may catch a fish that day, and I bet you he's going to post about how cool it was with his first motorcycle that he could ride out in the nature and not feel bad. And as I also went back earlier in the 90s when we were building our company, you noticed new communication platforms in the bottom here. If you're going to make a company work in North America, Europe, and South America, you need to be on the latest and most powerful platforms to let your message out there. And in this case, it's the suspects would be Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and whatever else is next. We have full confidence in that this group knows how to handle it all. And in a nutshell, this is a perfect example of what we believe is brand building through storytelling. Thank you.